Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to my micro teaching lesson on psychosocial development. My name is Megan Burkholtz, and I will be providing you a little information on this topic, and I hope you enjoy. So here we go. So our main objectives for today. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to explain what is psychosocial development. You're going to examine the 8 stages of Erik Erikson's theory on psychosocial development. And you're going to be able to discuss at least one stage of development with a peer. Now, whether this is on our blogs of the forum or maybe discussing with a peer outside of the course and providing yourself with a little bit more understanding of this topic. All right, so let's dig in here. All right, so what is psychosocial development? Well, psychosocial development, it is a theory, and it was created by a psychologist named Erik Erikson. He addresses the personal development of each individual, starting from birth, going all the way through death. And as he addresses this personal development, he groups them into stages. And the stages are what is moving this individual into their own personal identity. Now, each stage will also have some monumental conflict that it's going to serve as a turning point in that individual's development. So all of this, what it means is, how are we who we are today? What stages did we move through, and what maybe conflict did we come to that developed our own personal identity of who we are today and who we are going to develop to be, because these stages continue as you grow. All right, so who is Erik Erikson, right? We're going to be talking about this psychologist, so we want a little background knowledge. Well, he was born in Germany, June 15th, 1905. He was born to a woman named Carla Abrahamson, and she had conceived Erik out of wedlock, and she moved from Germany, and this was the cause of his beginning of his self-identity journey. All right, being born out of wedlock, and then his mother gets married to another man, and Erik changes his name, and it sounds like hamburger. Well, he eventually changes it to Erikson when he moves, and his daughter is quoted saying how this was his psychoanalytical change of personalities at this moment when he changes his own name. But that's another way of him self-identifying. He used to be a traveling artist before he became a psychologist, and he also studied the Montessori method. And this really touched my heart because I am originally from the Montessori school, and studying Maria Montessori and knowing that Erik Erikson also was studying that Montessori method, it makes sense when I was connecting these stages on what he developed and with the Maria Montessori method of ages as well. But back to Erik, he moved to the United States in the 1930s, and he studied at great places, Harvard, Yale, and he eventually meets up with some peers who also knew Sigmund Freud, which helped introduce his stages based off of Freud. Okay, so also he then died in 1994 at the age of 89. So there are milestones in every person's life, and every person will experience some sort of physical, emotional, social development throughout their life. Throughout life, the entire time, you're always experiencing something of these that are developing you. And with these experiences, they shape us to who we are as human beings. It is helping create our own individualism. Well, Erik, a modern psychologist, was expanding off of Freud's theory of social development. Now, Freud came up with 5 stages, and they were very distinct, but Erik kind of studied and developed, he did study and develop more, and he created 8 stages of development, and we'll discuss that in a few moments. But his focus on the stages of development were really the influence of what society and culture had on an individual. How does society and culture develop who they are as a person? And categories, they get divided up into 8 stages, and all of these stages are based on the time frame of the age of that individual. So they're grouped in different age ranges that, as if you are like me in our mid-30s, we are already in, stage 6. So we've already passed through a few of these stages. All right, let's continue. Okay, so for stage 1, we're going to talk about trust versus mistrust. Now, this starts from birth, and it moves all the way to 18 months old. This is the most fundamental stage of life. Out of all the stages in your life, birth to 18 months old is the most fundamental. It is the most important part. And why is that? Is because you are providing that child with a trustworthy, stable environment. And they need to learn that they are being taken care of, that they have a consistency with their caregiver. Okay, this child develops that trusting relationship with not only their parents, but they're also developing that trusting relationship with others. They need their basic needs to be met. And if they're being met, then they're learning to trust. But unfortunately, not every child gets that opportunity of having that trust built within them. So if they are in an environment where it is not consistent, they're not being taken care of, their needs are just not being tended to, this child will develop a sense of inconsistency and mistrust. And that is one of those monumental conflicts that I had briefly talked about in the beginning. So stage 2 is all about autonomy versus shame. So this stage, it goes from 18 months to 3 years old. And this age is important for independence. Parents are encouraged, and they need to help facilitate the children on completing basic needs for themselves. This age is so important for those children to feel that they are capable of simple basic things like feeding themselves, giving them a toothbrush, and starting to brush their own teeth. They need to find that sense of independence. Because they're searching for their independence, they're also discovering the abilities at this age, their talents that they might have, and they're learning to explore. And parents need to also be willing to let their children explore, of course, explore in a safe environment, but they need to be able to feel comfortable in expanding into their surroundings. Parents also, it sounds like I'm giving a lot of parental advice, but according to Erickson, you need to be careful about just not reprimanding that child on if they failed. So if they're trying to feed themselves and they get messy all over, not to reprimand them, but encourage them, because they are growing up into individuals and they need to feel supported and competent. So if a parent is reprimanding them for some of their tasks that they may have not succeeded on, they start to feel incompetent and they feel like they're not going to be able to complete these tasks. And our goal here in this stage is building that self-esteem at this age and not losing that self-esteem. Stage 3, initiative versus guilt. Now this age, you're going to see it from ages 3 to 5. And at this age, children are learning new concepts in school, and they're starting to apply it outside of school. They are starting to develop little personalities and learning how to take that initiative, how to lead others. They want to help as much as possible. However, if they start asking for more assistance on completing little tasks that they might see other children their age doing, they can feel a sense of burden and they start to feel a little less purposeful in their lives, maybe a little guilty. So, this stage is important when setting the sense of purpose in their life. Stage 4, industry versus inferiority. This is ages 5 to 13. Children are starting to compare themselves with others and see the differences they have. Friends become very important in their lives. Teachers are also a very important part of this child's age, 5 to 13, because they need to make sure that they are not making that child feel inferior, right? Use their dialogue, start talking with them, encouraging them to complete goals. This will definitely help lead this individual into more of a go-getter, a prideful and confident person. Whereas if the teachers and parents are starting to restrict that child, that can lead them more to doubt and reluctancy on their abilities. Stage 5, identity versus role confusion. This you'll see in 13 to 21-year-olds. And this age, they are questioning, well, who am I? Where do I fit in? And this makes complete sense when you think about those adolescents and why are they so crazy, why are they not doing this? Well, they're really trying to question their roles of what society is trying to tell them, what their parents have told them. And Erickson states that if you allow that child to explore who they are, they will conclude their own self-identity. They will come up with who they are if they're allowed that freedom. However, on the contrary, one of those monumental conflict moments is if a parent is pushing and restricting their child so much into what they want their child to be, that child will, or adolescent, I should say, is going to battle with their identity. Um, so this stage is important on just deciding of who I am and what is my role, where do I fit in. Stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. So this you're going to see in more, they said, like Eric says, 30-year-olds, but this is from the ages of 21 to 39. This generation is focused on dating, marriage, family, friends, that connection you have with people, that is the priority. And why we said that it's more commonly found in people in their 30s is because they start to worry, am I going to be without a partner? Am I going to live alone? They're starting to feel a little bit more isolated as they get a little bit older. And that's more because that feeling comes from the more people you meet, the more you're going to hear of those successful stories. That can start putting you into a feeling of isolation if you don't feel like you have reached that success that these other individuals that you're meeting are. So, they're feeling more, they're more prone to feeling lonely. And if those relationships do fail to form for these individuals, that's when they start to feel a sense of isolation. So, stage 7, generativity versus stagnation. This is found in 40 to 65-year-olds. This is, quote unquote, the second stage of adulthood. And this is where people they know what's important to them. They're making either advances in their career field or they're deciding this might not be what I want to do for the rest of my life and trying to take a step back from what they are doing and find something else. People are going to be involved more in their communities and their children's activities, and they're going to feel a sense of purpose in their life, and they start to feel prideful in that. And on the other hand, that monumental conflict could be if they're starting to feel regretful for their decisions in life, they're going to start to lose their sense of purpose and they will start feeling useless and regretful. Now, stage 8, the last stage, ego, integrity versus despair. So this is found in 65 and older. This is the last stage of their life. And so they're starting to feel a sense of acceptance and contentfulness on how their life unfolded. They accept life for all the good and the bad that they have accomplished. Now, if those who don't feel that fulfillment, they're content with accepting the good and the bad, then they're going to develop a guilty conscience, and that can lead to depression and loneliness. So achieving the acceptance of life at this stage will lead to the feeling of success. All right, so my follow-up activity, we all have passed through at least the first 5 to 6 stages. So can you look back and think of a monumental moment that helped define who you are as an individual? And what moment do you feel defined your social interaction, your social development? So if you could review those 8 stages and comment on at least just one stage that you were able to connect with, make a clear connection of, yeah, I can see this stage and what Erik Erikson is describing throughout this psychosocial development. Okay. And last but not least, don't forget to be awesome. Thank you for tuning in, and good luck on everyone on their teaching assignments. All right. Have a good night.